Today we're going to show you how to change the safety thermostat on your dryer, and it's a really easy job. All we're going to need is a number 2 Phillips screwdriver, and depending on your model, maybe a number 2 square head screwdriver, a Stubby Phillips screwdriver, and you'll also need a small flat blade screwdriver and a pair of needle nose pliers. Let me show you how we do it. Now before we begin this repair, since we will be working near some electrical circuits, we will need to disconnect the power to the dryer. So it has a cord on it, simply remove it from the socket on the wall, and if it's a hardwired dryer, we'll need to locate the fuse panel or breaker panel and turn the power off at that point. Now in this model, we'll need to remove both the front panel and the top panel. Now to gain access to the top panel, there are 2 Phillips screws that come up through the front panel up into the top panel. We'll need to remove those first. Next, we're going to lift up on the front of the top panel and just kind of rotate it upwards, disengaging it from the bottom of the control panel. There are 3 slotted openings in the back of that top panel that do engage with 3 tabs on our control panel. We can now set that aside. Now next, with either our number 2 square head or our Phillips screwdriver, we'll remove the 2 screws that secure the top of the front panel to the cabinet. And then while supporting the drum, we'll tilt the front panel out. We'll lift up gently on it, and there are some wires that attach to the door switch and light circuit in that lower left corner, so we'll be careful not to pull it too far away. Then we can just pivot it around, and then we'll disconnect those wires. Now take note of where the wires are attached to the switch. And typically there will be one that has an inline connector on it. We'll use our small flat blade, just open up that connector enough, separate it, and then we can set that front panel aside. Now next we're going to have to remove the drum from the dryer, and first we'll have to unattach the belt from the idler and motor pulleys. So we'll reach in through on the left hand side, over top of the motor, and then also come in through from the left side till you find the idler, pull it towards the center, and rotate the belt off of either the motor or the idler. Release the tension. And make sure the belt is free of both pulleys. And then we can pull the tumbler out through the front, and it's a fairly tight fit, so you may have to separate the cabinet sides a little bit. And then we can set the tumbler and the belt aside. Now our next step will be to remove the 2 wires from the safety thermostat. Just take your needle nose pliers and pull those off. Pull on the terminal, not on the wire. And then remove the single Phillips screw that holds that thermostat bracket to the heater housing. And remove the old thermostat. And we'll insert the new one, and there is a notched tab where the screw fits through. That'll be on the bottom. And slide it into the little slot at the very top of that opening. Reinstall the mounting screw. And then reinstall the 2 wires. And check the terminals, make sure there's no signs of any arcing or overheating. And if there is, we'll need to replace those terminals. We're now ready to put the drum and the belt back into the dryer. So we'll start by fitting the drum through the opening of that cabinet. As I say, it's fairly snug, so you may have to spread the cabinet just gently enough to get it through. And once we're part way back, we can drape the belt over the back of the drum and make sure it's fitted around the bottom. And we'll keep the groove side of the belt towards the drum. And we'll fit it back into place so that it engages the bearing in the center of the heater housing. Now when reinstalling the drum in this type of dryer, you obviously can't see how the belt is oriented around the
motor pulley and idler pulley, so we thought we'd show you a little close-up here of how it's going to end up looking. As you set the drum in, you will have your belt laying beneath the drum in this area. The groove side up, we would wrap it underneath the motor pulley and pull it back, and we'll pull that idler over far enough that we can lay the belt across the top of the idler and then back around under the drum.
And just make sure we have it seated in the bearing, and we can just drop that belt into position, and then we'll get down, reach through the front, and reconnect the belt to the idler and the motor pulleys. So with one hand through on the left side, we'll find that belt and make sure that we have, again, the groove side against the drum. Now the belt will come around the drum from the right hand side. It'll go up over top of the idler pulley. Then it's going to pull down and wrap around the motor pulley. So you have to pull the idler arm and pulley towards the center of the drum, putting tension on it, and that will give us enough slack that you can wrap the belt around the motor. Now just feel the belt to make sure that it's seated firmly in the motor pulley. It's in the center of the idler pulley. And then just gently turn the drum, and you should see the blower wheel turn freely. And we can now put the front panel back on. Now we next need to make sure that we reconnect the wires to the door switch and the light circuit. So we'll take the single white wire, which goes to the common terminal, the back of the switch, the yellow with the brown stripe to the opposite outside terminal, and then the inline to the light. Just make sure that the connector locks in place, and then we'll slide that protective cover back in front of the switches. And then we just need to slide that protective cover back in front of the switch. Slide the little tab into the front panel, and then we can swing the front panel around, set it on the two tabs on the bottom of the cabinet. There's some rectangular openings in the bottom of that front panel that will fit over those tabs. Make sure the wire harnesses are not pinching anywhere. Then just carefully lift up on the drum, tilt the front panel back into position. Make sure the locating tabs along the side line up with the cabinet, and then we're ready to put the two screws back into the top of it. There's one on either side. Again, make sure that the tabs are lined up properly. And now we can put the main top back on. Now there are three slotted openings in the back of that main top that will engage the three tabs on the control panel. And also the curled edge of that main top, the lower end of it, will fit underneath this supporting bracket at the back. So we'll start by engaging the tabs at the top first. And then we'll need to pull that far enough forward that it will go down underneath that mounting bracket, and then push it back into place. Next, we'll install the two screws up from the front panel. So we'll open the door up. Now it's difficult to line these screws up unless we raise the top just a bit so that we can see where they come up through the opening. There's a slotted opening across the top edge of that front panel. That screw needs to come up through the middle of that. And then we can tighten it securely. Do the same on the opposite side. We're now ready to reconnect the power, and our repair is complete.